Hello, everyone. My name is Moshe Nave from the SAP community team. Welcome to today's SAP community call about low-code application development with AppGyver and Business Application Studio. We have Marco Letimaki, product lead for SAP AppGyver, and we have Alon Shachar, product management lead for SAP LCAP area at SAP. I'm going to launch soon the poll, so please feel free to participate in it. And Alon, please take it away.
Yeah, so hi guys, I will start sharing my screen, but before that I would say that I'm very happy about the opportunity to present to you our new offering coming from SAP about low-code, no-code. But so let's give it a go. So as stated by Moshe, my name is Alon Shachar, and I'm the LCAP product manager. LCAP stands for Low-Code Application Platform, for those who are not familiar with the market term. Eventually, this is about low-code, no-code offering that we from SAP are providing now as part of our new services on top of the SAP business platform. And this is something that we were working on for a long time, starting with the acquisition of AppGyver beginning of this year, and later on added additional functionality, additional capabilities with our SAP Business Application Studio. Eventually, it's all about how can we boost the development and create more opportunities for people to create application in a much more easy manner for the sake of their business needs. And so what are the, I would maybe try and start with some of the backgrounds for that. What we are seeing right now in the market are a lot of demand that actually comes into the corporate IT to create more and more applications. That is as different reasonings and different demands that originally came from the fact that the line of businesses need to create more and more applications, and they have full dependencies on their central IT. Obviously, the pandemic situation accelerated that kind of demand, where we are seeing that almost 60% of the enterprise companies are expecting cloud to be used because of that. People work remotely, and that obviously accelerate also the need that people should, within their line of businesses, create the kind of applications for their needs. Obviously, that kind of a demand, while going to the central IT, as a big challenge. It has introduced a big challenge to the IT. Traditionally, the corporate IT is in charge of the demand satisfaction, which means that they will need to create all those kind of applications for the sake of line of businesses. However, they cannot make it. The resources are very limited, and the demand for having more and more digitalization of their systems has become critical. On top, if you think about the fact that each of the companies has a very complex IT systems, and the number of applications that needs to be created is growing, then eventually that has introduced the need for not just having the concept of how can we enable the line of businesses to create applications, but also the skill level of that persona, those people that are within the line of businesses should be very low. So those people are not developers by nature, and they usually do not understand the complexity of those systems. Still, they do have the need to create those kind of apps. For that matter, one of the things that we kind of One of the things that we introduced, or we started to look into, is to understand how do those personas differentiate from each other. While usually the development teams within corporate IT are professional developers, those business users, which within the line of businesses are, they don't have development skills at all. So while professional developer can use any kind of tool and they understand the different steps that are needed to create those kind of applications. So they understand what does it mean to develop, to deploy an application, to test an application, or to move that into production. They also understand concept around lifecycle management and what is version control. And as long as they are within their corporate IT, they obviously understand what kind of governance should be created. The citizen developers, or those kind of business users, which sits on the line of businesses, do not have those kind of skills. They are requested, or they have the need to create those kind of applications, but they do not have the skill level that is required to do so, which means that we, as a vendor that provides those kind of low code, no code tools, should somehow bring that kind of a smartness, provide that kind of know-how of the development process and development experience from within our tools. And that is, and to that, we obviously need to make sure that, for instance, our code text editor should be now much more intuitive and should become maybe visual editors. We should also make sure that we make all the necessary abstraction for the complexity that is within those systems, and that we can create a kind of abstraction from within our tools. So once that kind of a citizen developer start to use those tools, he or she does not need to know a lot about development experience. So the tools will guide them through. Last but not least, those tools should make sure that they are that they comply with the local corporate IT. So eventually, the outcome of those tools, which is the applications, should comply with any kind of enterprise feature or any kind of security aspects that is being regulated as part of the local IT. Which means, again, that those tools should be, in a way, very, very smart, in a way that they are bringing that kind of a know-how into so that the user can leverage that without the need for the user to know all those kind of details from within. We obviously expect that those no-code and low-code tool will be used not just by the citizen developer. So we expect that the professional developer can leverage that as well, just to gain more productivity. And we will mention that later on. We will dig a little bit into that. The fact that we have that kind of that we are now going to accelerate that kind of a development by low code and no code approach, this is not something that SAP just by itself right now has decided to do. This is a market trend. There is a big demand coming from our customers base. And also, seeing the different Gartner reports, we know that by 2023, more than 50% of the enterprise will need to adopt those kind of LCAP solutions, which is the low code application platform, again, to satisfy their internal needs and to satisfy the requirements for those enterprise applications that are created from within. In parallel to that, we also expect that the volume of those applications will be eventually much higher than the applications that are being created by the professional developers within the corporate IT. And the estimation is that by 2024, more than 60% of the applications will be created by those kind of tools. So whether those numbers are correct, yes or no, it's still a question to be seen. But what is obvious is that the trend is already there. So even if those numbers are a little bit wrong, they obviously not wrong by a margin. So that is a trend that we from SAP understand that we need to support. Obviously, having that kind of complexity of having the tools coming from SAP, we are trying to make everything that we can to simplify the entire development experience for you. And the challenge that we have with that is that traditionally most of our tools were targeting the professional developer. Usually the professional developer, as stated before, is someone who knows what he or she is doing. That means that they know which tool to use, and they know what kind of a flexibility they require to have, and they can actually do a lot of stuff with those existing tools. Creating that kind of an abstraction now to make sure that that is much more simple to use for the citizen developer means that we would also need to remove or reduce some of that flexibility, just to make sure that there is a lot of productivity gained for the citizen developer. To make that happen, it would end up in a situation that there would be maybe too few features that we can offer with those tools. And that is our challenge. The challenge that we have right now is that within our tools, and I hope that by the end of this session you'll see that this is what we were able to achieve, is that to have some kind of a sweet spot where the tools that we are offering for you, both easy to use and in parallel provide the necessary productivity for the citizen developer to create the application he or she needs. So they are, and that they are not considered to be, let's call it, toys that are just used for demos, but rather tools that can actually satisfy a real business need for creating those kind of applications. Obviously, that is part of our main strategy. So SAP has put that on its strategy to support that kind of a low-code, no-code tool to simplify the development of application extension for that comes on top of the SAP Business Application Studio. This is part of our technology platform, and we would support the creation of those applications on top of the SAP technology. And so to make that happen, what we were coming to do, what we decided to do, is to actually have a suite of products where we can create a unified development experience, which would allow different developers with different skill sets to address that kind of a need. And we have, as mentioned, when I started the call, beginning of this year, we announced the acquisition of AppGyver, and AppGyver is obviously a tool. It's a no-code tool where Marco will deep dive into that and explain all the stuff around that. It's clearly a tool for a citizen developer, and it is within that kind of a no-code space. In parallel to that, we have taken the SAP Business Application Studio, which was built for a professional developer, and added more and more functionality into that to support also low-code development experience. With that, we are able to provide a continuum from a no-code to low-code experience with Business Application Studio, where when that is necessary, SAP Business Application Studio can also switch in some cases to support real professional coding. But as it stands right now, Business Application Studio would address that kind of a low-code development need. And obviously, if you're interested in continuing and doing professional development and doing professional experience, you can use any kind of standard IDEs like VS Code and others to create applications on top of SAP. It is equally important to mention that the tools that we create for no-code and low-code are not just for the citizen developer, but also the professional developer can leverage those kind of tools to gain a lot of productivity, and when necessary, continue with his tool of choice with the creation of the development tools. So the suite of products that we have for both for LCAP, for the low-code application platform, which spans around no-code and low-code as well, consists of AppGyver, the Business Application Studio, and any other aspects and then if you want to continue with professional coding, you can do that as well. So our vision eventually is to have a unified development experience to support low-code, no-code application development. And later on, we will introduce also the process automation as part of the overall development experience, while we are also enable the professional developers to participate and to contribute when that is needed. Obviously, for that matter, SAP can now, with our no-code, low-code offering, have the option to enhance the return on investment, to maximize speed and agility, where all those kind of tools will accelerate your delivery process. It will foster also collaboration throughout a collaboration or co-development between the different business and IT, and also between the different personas. And eventually it should accelerate the time to value and the total cost of development for you guys. Last but not least, before I hand it over to Marco, is to explain a little bit about the different offerings that we have for Business Application Studio and the SAP AppGyver. Eventually, as I mentioned before, that is a unified development experience from no-code to low-code. While Business Application Studio more focused on our low-code development environment for what we call the SAP opinionated technology, like Fiori, like mobile development kit, like workflow, like the cloud application programming model. And in parallel to that, it would obviously will offer service creation for native and cross-platform support, and it will have out-of-the-box UI templates to do that. It would also maintain some of the domain expertise for the professional development, like what we have for SAP HANA. And as mentioned, it can still provide productivity gain also for the professional developer. While our new offering with SAP AppGyver is an enterprise-ready no-code composition environment. You'll get all the richness of creating an app with a visual concept, supporting sophisticated web and native mobile application. Obviously, it is now integrated into SAP BTP, and that is true for both our IDP security aspect as such, as well as the integration into the SAP API. But also in parallel to that, it offers a community edition for the non-SAP customers, where you could have rich components and extension marketplace that would fuel that kind of a collaboration between those kind of personas. I'm happy to say that we were able to put it now. It was released on September 14th, and now you can find it already on our service marketplace, and you can go there and use that. Use both concept for low code and no code. And with that, maybe Marco, I will hand it over to you so that you can have your deep dive also into specifically into AppGyver. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Alon. So let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes.
Perfect. All righty. So, hi everyone. Great to be here. My name is Marko Lehtimäki, and as mentioned, I'm the product lead of SAP AppGyver. Prior to SAP acquisition of AppGyver earlier this year, I was the founder and heading the product team since beginning. So today we are talking about SAP AppGyver, and I put the subtitle here saying professional no-code platform, and that really captures what we're trying to do. Our vision from the beginning has been to build a very advanced no-code platform that truly provides an alternative to coding and pushes the no-code paradigm to the next level, rather than being happy with the status quo of what have been traditionally being thought about what no-code platforms do. And this captures both the professional developers as well as the citizen developers, as even if you are a citizen developer, you do want to have access to the same powerful methodologies and toolings in the no-code world that the coders are used to in the coding world. And I put here on the slide, kind of to illustrate the point, the 6 decades of technology evolution. And these are the most popular programming languages of each decade. And one interesting thing is that as programming languages have matured, not only have they become more powerful in the expression, but they have also become easier and easier to use. And at every step of evolution with programming languages, the amount of people that have been able to build software with the most common language of that decade has continued to grow. And we actually place no-code as part of this evolution and continuum of further and further abstractation of how we as humans communicate with computers and tell them what to do in our software. And I believe that when no-code is done right, it should be a natural progression in making development not only faster and more accessible, but also better for those who know how to code. I personally come from the background where I used to write machine code at early age, and I would not go back there with the modern frameworks, and because they are more powerful and enable me to do much more. And I believe that similarly in future, those that are writing no code will look back and say that, thank goodness I don't need to go back to writing JavaScript or whatever it was that you used to write if you come from the development background. And in one way, if no code is to be what it's supposed to be, it means that many who used to write code will convert and start using the better method. So that's kind of where we're aiming here. And so we are talking about a truly visionary way to create no-code platforms and what we want to achieve. Traditionally speaking, no-code has been focusing more on so-called baby apps, where the higher end of the spectrum, i.e. creating sophisticated mission-critical software, that hasn't been really served at all. But rather, when we hear the word no-code, traditionally thinking, we imagine that this is a tool that allows me to do something, but not everything. And if I want to really build good software, I need to learn how to code. And that's not how it's supposed to be. And that's what we have changed with our product. And I have here an illustration of how we are positioning positioning the SAP AppGyver. So in your traditional no-code tools, generally speaking, they are very easy to use, but at the same time, you have a very limited scope of what kind of applications you can create. And then on the other side, you have the cross-platform code, various frameworks. These are slow and difficult in comparison to no-code tooling. But at the same time, the power of expression is such that you can, technically speaking, build anything that you can imagine. That's the beauty of software. And what we're doing is that we are positioning here, taking the best of these two different worlds and bringing them together in SAP AppGyver. And so we are capturing the power of expression of traditional code-based approach and combining with that with the ease of use of the no-code tooling. And in addition, we are doing also something unique, which none of these worlds typically do, which is, first of all, we are automatically optimizing the performance and the architecture of your application in a way that you're not used to in traditional no-code tools or even cross-platform code. And this is something that we're very proud of, and we believe that no-code products should, in general, perform at least as fast as a good developer would be able to reasonably achieve when they're building an application with a code. And another thing that we are doing that is very unique is that when you're building apps with SAP AppGyver, you're not only building web apps or responsive, mobile web apps and native iOS and Android apps, but you are also building Android TV applications, or you are building macOS desktop applications. And we actually are planning to add many more platforms, but we already support multiple platforms that are not typically covered with either cross-platform code or traditional no-code tools. And we truly build native iOS and Android experiences in addition to the adaptive web and progressive web apps. And this is also something unique. And in today's world where it really matters that you can cater to different audiences and form factors and devices, this can be really powerful. And I'm going to go a little bit more deeper into creating the contrast just to introduce what we're doing differently. In today's world, as I mentioned, the apps are mostly built in a kind of wizard type of fashion, and they are typically form apps, like simplistic apps that are built with no-code platforms. As mentioned, typically limited app functionality, very limited design capabilities. If your designer provides a design specification of how the app should look and behave, it's very unlikely that you would be able to achieve 100% of what's required with a no-code product. And this is, of course, shouldn't be so. Typically, no-code products are not extendable at all, or if they are extendable, that's only possible with code and complex tool chain, which in return means that majority of the users of the product cannot extend the platform, which is really a shame. As mentioned, performance is something that we are really proud of and put a lot of effort in, but it's also to contrast with the typical quite substandard app performance. And this is something that no-code shouldn't be known for. And to put it all together, typically no-code, traditionally speaking, has meant that it's not a platform for big apps and mission-critical real software or your 5-star consumer applications, but it's meant for more simple use cases. And even though the simple use cases still exist, and it's nice that you can create those, the methodology should go much further. And that's why we have created SAP AppGyver. It is, as mentioned, professional no-code platform. And this is how it looks. You can, of course, go and play with it after the demonstration, or after the presentation. But as you can see, it's very easy to use, drag and drop user interface, and the same ease of use that you have come to expect from, say, prototyping tools or no-code tools. But what's behind the ease of use, and when you go deeper, is a very powerful platform that truly allows you to express yourself and build powerful applications. And we call it visual programming. That's kind of a way to explain how we do the no code. Coding and programming are not the same. You want to be able to program the computer to do exactly what you want it to do, but you don't want to know syntax and have to write code. You want to think visually. And why we call it visual programming is because with AppGyver, you can literally do anything that you could code. And there's an asterisk for the pointer that, of course, you shouldn't try to build 3D games necessarily or certain very specific use cases. But you can build 95% of the applications that are non-games that exist in the world. And how we position and what's unique and what are the capabilities. First of all, pixel perfect design. Anything that you could do with your HTML, CSS, and frameworks like React Native, you can achieve exactly the same designs with SAP AppGyver at ease and visually without writing anything. You can also build unlimited logic with this visual programming method, and also utilizing data transformation formulas, which are a very powerful way to build declarative user interfaces, where basically once you define a formula of how something should be shown or displayed, the code will make sure that that is always true when the application is in use. Very powerful thing is that most extensions with SAP AppGyver are built with 0 lines of code. And this is something where we've pioneered a very new way to look at components and how to extend them. I won't go into details, that's maybe subject of another presentation, but you can go play with the product and learn about it. But basically, you can extend and build small or large components and reuse them, obviously, and even share with your friends or colleagues. And on top of that, I already mentioned the performance, but the client applications are based on React and React Native. And we've done a lot of optimizations on top of the vanilla versions. So you can expect to have pretty amazing apps as an outcome. And another still one point is that the product is designed for professional development. And this means capabilities like advanced debugging that is typically unheard of in NoCode, ability to create custom design systems. And we are taking that very far with our theming capabilities. And also being able to create custom native extensions, including SDKs and React Native plugins for the professional developers to extend. And once these extensions are done, they can become available to those who are just using the drag and drop interface. But while all of this is true, the product is really meant to be used by anyone. And we have a lot of stories. There's tons of people using the product for some time now. And there's a lot of stories about people building something amazing and never having coded a single line in their life. So you can literally go from the form apps, the most simple apps, to real sophisticated applications. And this is not just talk. The product has been battle tested with mission critical software. We have some showcases available online, but I'm just covering a couple of examples here that you can find from the website as well. So a couple of case studies. One of them is Voima, which is effectively a application that allows you to buy and sell physical gold. And you could think of it as like Bitcoin wallet, but for owning physical gold. And as you can imagine, this type of application requires a very specific level of security and encryption, biometric security, and all these kinds of things. And the entire application is very sophisticated and large application, both natively in iOS and Android, as well as web application and separate mobile web interfaces. All of it was built with Composer with SAP AppGyver Composer used to be the old name for the product. So SAP AppGyver, without writing a single line of code and building the whole entire application for multiple platforms from a single project. And another example is Verge, a creator of or manufacturer of electric motorcycles. And they built the entire management of the manufacturing process and inventory management and everything that goes into building a motorcycle. The entire ERP system has been rethought through by building a bunch of applications for tablets and phones and TVs on top of the ERP system. And this is really powerful. But these are just a couple of examples of real use cases. There's many more. And the idea is that even though you can build the NoCode, like typical form applications, there's no limitation to how far you can go. And so the key takeaway from these two examples is that these are built with 0 lines of code, and this is not possible with traditional no-code platforms. There's an active community of hundreds of thousands of developers who have built hundreds of thousands of applications. And this is something that also highlights the fact that there's been a lot of battle testing, and it's really ready for prime time. And we are excited to have all of you take a look at what we've created. And what now, after the company has been acquired and we are part of SAP, what SAP and being part of SAP enables us to do, I'm just going to share a few words going forward. The initial release was a couple of weeks ago, and there we released the support for OData and consuming SAP APIs. We got the product running on BTP, and we brought in a bunch of enterprise readiness features. Coming next, we are looking at UI5 inspired advanced components to make much more, even faster than you can do today, deeper integration and much more. In medium term to long term, what's very exciting is this community marketplace that Alon mentioned, where we believe that we can create something very unique that hasn't been seen around no-code, where all the extensions that you can create around AppGyver, SAP AppGyver, can be shared and utilized by everybody being part of the ecosystem. And of course, continuing to push limits of what no-code can do. Last slide is about pricing. So this is very aggressively priced. The enterprise edition running on SAP BTP is €10 per developer per month. But we also have a community edition at www.appgyver.com where you can try the product for free. And that concludes my presentation. Ready for the QA.
Thank you very much. Everyone, you can use the Q&A tab to post questions, or you have the chat as well.
Marco, I think there is a question around whether AppGyver will support Fiori, and is it also as easy to connect to an SAP backend than it is to design the app? If you can take that.
Great questions. Yes, there's support for Fiori coming in our next release, which maybe by the end of next week. So, and we will be putting a lot more attention into specific variations of Fiori and how you can customize that. But yes, that is covered. And when it comes to connecting to SAP backends through OData, for example, this has been made very easy and simple. It's literally just knowing the endpoint, and after that, it's kind of wizard type of process that shows you the available resources in the data storage or in the backend. And yes, it's designed to be used also by non-developers.
Then I think there was a question around What about third-party native modules?
Yes, so that is something that so today we already have the infrastructure for supporting that, but we are working with a limited group of people to test it out and build certain extensions. But in near future, we are planning to open up the creation and inclusion of plugins by anybody. And that is one of the upcoming very exciting features.
Mm-hmm. Then maybe I will take the next question. So it was currently I can use API management for OData. Is there any other way to consume on-premise OData? So assuming that you know your endpoint, obviously you can create that kind of a destination on BTP, and once that is there, that can be consumed from either AppGyver or from Business Application Studio, and then leverage for the creation of the app. So API management is a great tool, but if that is if you need to use it directly, then you can do that as well.
I'll take one question here asking about if there's no license implications for the number of users using the developed apps, and that is correct. It is about the amount of developers using the product. So if you have 2 developers and 100 end users, you are charged by the 2 developers.
Mm-hmm. Then how the project would be positioned in BTP along with MDK and Fiori. So Business Application Studio does support the creation of MDK projects and Fiori with our low-code offering. For AppGyver right now, we have Marco, maybe you can take that. So Fiori we already mentioned as far as mobile.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's not straightforward to port the MDK capabilities to a no-code product, but there are certain functionalities that we're looking at in the SDK level that we hope to bring, and those functionalities would be brought in as native extensions to the product.
Mm-hmm. Then there is another question around whether cross issues with connecting directly to OData, is that addressed with the BTP edition?
Well, I don't know if there's a simple yes or no answer to that. I mean, it may be addressed depending a little bit on the setup, but we do have something in the pipeline for even taking care of those remaining course issues, if any. Of course, this is about server-side trust, and it depends a little bit on the configuration. But yeah, that's as good as it can be answered on a general level.
Okay, and then are there any differences?
Yeah.
I think that there was a question around the community edition versus the corporate edition.
Yeah, so I could check that. So there are certain differences. Obviously, there's enterprise support, which is only available in the enterprise edition. It's running on BTP, and that provides you with certain capabilities when you're working on SAP related integrations. There are also certain other features, from release management to multi-language support and many others, and also features in the pipeline that are only available in the BTP or Enterprise Edition. And as we go forward, we will continue to make sure that the Community Edition is usable and you can be productive and build applications with it. But if you're an enterprise building for an enterprise use case, then you should really subscribe to the Enterprise Edition, as there will be many features that you want from there, including items related to governance and management of the bigger fleets of applications.
Mm-hmm. Then, is AppGyver available in trial version on BTP? Because there's someone who could not see that. So the answer to that is no. AppGyver is not supported as part of the trial version. There is an upcoming concept of a free tier, which is going to be introduced, where there will be a way to consume services free on the BTP, including AppGyver later on for anyone who wants to try it out. So that in parallel to the community edition, so as Marco explained, there is the community edition that you can use already now free of charge. And we are going to introduce a free tier edition, which will make it available for anyone that would like to consume services on top of BTP free of charge for the sake of testing. And then that is going to be introduced not just for AppGyver, but also for a lot of other bunch of services on top of BTP.
Yeah, I'll take one question, which is about the Git support for version control. And no, we do not today support Git for version control. We do have in the enterprise version edition the ability to manage releases in a more straightforward and visual way. But the release management does exist, the way you can roll back and push to different environments. However, there are some interesting things that we are planning to do there in the future, but today that's how it works.
Just to complement on that, so Beans Application Studio for low code does support Git underneath. Obviously, that requires some plumbing to be done before one starts to work, but that kind of a version control is there. Then offline OData support with AppGyver, is there anything like that, Marco?
No built-in support for offline. However, creating offline capability, including pending posting and these types of things, has been done over and over again. There are even some tutorials, I believe, on how to implement that. Because in offline you may have different offline strategies. But we looking into going further with the built-in functionality in future releases and hoping to bring there something out of the box. Also answering a little bit on what's the difference between community edition and enterprise edition. Can community edition be used for commercial purposes? Yes, but if you're building critical enterprise applications, you probably should have the enterprise license with the support and with all the features that have to do with managing, for example, proper release management and other features and running on BTP. But there's no limitation on how you can use the community edition today.
Yeah, and there is another question: is whether AppGyver applications can be deployed on the Launchpad service, on the Fiori Launchpad. Marco?
No, not today.
Yes, but this is part of our roadmap. Eventually, that is part of the overall support for Fiori that we will provide going forward. So you can expect that to happen, to have one entry point for all business applications to be consumed from. Obviously, that will be part of our the SAP AppGyver Enterprise Edition.
Yes.
Maybe Moshe, back to you, because we are running out of questions. So.
Okay, thank you very much for a very interesting call. Before we close, I would like to let everyone know that the recording will be available in a couple of days in the SAP community calls replays page. So thank you everyone for attending today.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.